You're listening to the Flow Theory Podcast.
Hello there, Flow Theory Podcast listeners. I'm Wade Peary. This is part 2 of our interview with former Hawaii quarterback and college football legend, Colt Brennan. I saw on your Instagram page you posted that clip where you were celebrating with one of your O-linemen, and then you said something to one of the Arizona State players, number 77, after you guys had just scored. Tell me what you said to him. I always love hearing about a little smack talk.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, it's funny, Marcus Riley was a great linebacker at Fresno State, and he laid me out my senior year, and I was unconscious for like 2 minutes on the field. And then I got to see him a couple years later at the Pro Bowl, and we obviously had a lot of respect for each other. And he reached out to me yesterday too, and he was like, "Yo, man, what'd you say to him?" And so I wrote to him. I'm like, I know I was cussing up a storm to him. I just know that I ended with bitch. And before I could really, my lineman, which I love, which is great about the video and why I have the Galileo quote, that I was on the shoulder of giants.
Is that Hercules Satele?
No, Samson Satele.
Okay.
He started for a number of years in the NFL
with the Dolphins, right?
The Dolphins and the Raiders. He was there when I went to the Raiders too, which was awesome. Yeah, like what I love about the quote is here I am trying to talk trash to this guy, and before I could even finish, my lineman with the braided down braids coming down the back of his helmet comes storming in, and that was what was great about my junior year, man. The Paulies that I had around me, man, hey, man, they took such pride in taking care of me, man. And it was like, oh, man, I remember they also, like, my junior year, the O-line had this, like, the running back and O-line had a technique where if their responsibility came on pass protection and their responsibility didn't come, well, then they would just turn down the line and light someone up. And I always remember playing Purdue, and it was like they just didn't want to rush anymore because they were getting so messed up by my O-line and my running backs. And it was like I had never experienced that ever in football, where the D-line and the linebackers were like, man, we don't even want to rush. We're sick of getting beat up. And so that was the type of mentality my O-line had. And obviously coming from a place like Hawaii, there's not really racial prejudices here by any means, but it can be hard to be a white guy and go into a place with locals and stuff. But luckily I was able to format myself, and then there was always a joke, my junior and senior year when we would go out to places that, late night places where we'd have fun and stuff and dance. And they're like, oh, what do you call 5 Simones in a white guy? The quarterback was the joke, But it was fun because, you could go out there, you could have a blast. You wouldn't have to worry about some local guy getting upset because it was like, you see the biggest, baddest dudes in this place, he's with them, and so it was pretty awesome having those guys. And we're all very close friends today. And yeah, man, it was great playing with them. And I got stories for days about how great those guys are.
It's good that you talked about the offensive line because I was watching one of your old games in the past couple of days, and I think it was Ron Franklin, the play-by-play announcer, said that June Jones said that one year your offensive line was the best that he had in 9 years.
I think that's my junior year, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Junior year.
No doubt. They were unbelievably great.
All right. And I know you mentioned Marcus Riley hitting you. Marcus Riley hit you the hardest, and talk about the time that Marcus Howard hit you in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, man, Marcus Howard, man, that guy was an animal, dude, and he ruined my draft stock that year. He ran one of the fastest 40 times ever recorded by a D end in the combine.
He was a really good player, man.
Yeah, he was a tremendous player, and all the speculation came out. What happened to Hawaii? Well, dude, their DN ran a 4.3 or whatever.
They had some beasts on that roster, bro.
And it's like no matter what O-line you have, dude, when you got a guy like that, especially in a pass-happy offense, he's going to cause problems. And he did that the whole night. He caused problems. I don't remember, but I look at that game. It was obviously disappointing, and we wanted to showcase ourselves in a much better way. But we got hit in the mouth, and the only good thing I can say about it is I got beat up that game, but I took it like a man. And I remember like in the third quarter, fourth quarter, there was a TV timeout, and me and my receiver, CJ Hawthorne, were talking to Coach Riggs. And he was like, bro, we respect you guys a lot. And I even read, I think, that Georgia had said, man, that kid's tough. That quarterback's tough. And so, even though it wasn't, it was obviously my worst game I ever had in my college career. It sucks to be your last, but at least I took that beating like a man.
Yeah, dude. Marcus Howard, he had a play in that game where he set the tackle up, like he took a step to the outside and then he came inside. He came inside to the strong side, and God, he blasted you, dude. I mean, I was like, jeez.
Yeah, no, he was a great football player.
He was exceptional, dude. That Georgia team was loaded. I mean, they had no Sean Marino, Matthew Stafford, Sean Bailey. I mean, listen, you guys had one of the most historic football seasons of all time. So there's nothing to be ashamed of what you guys did on the football field. I mean, you set 31 records in your NCAA career. I was telling a buddy that stat the past few days. He was like, God damn.
Being in college was an epic experience, not only because we were successful, but it did two things. One is my teammates were so epic and they were so awesome. And we had so much fun as a team. And when you win, it takes care of everything. What Vince Lombardi said, winning isn't a sometimes thing, it's an all the time thing. And when you do win, it takes care of everything. And we watched, the other thing was the islands just came alive my junior and senior year. And I remember listening to guys that lived on the North Shore that talked about game day driving in my senior year, and they would be coming in over the hill into Pearl City area where the stadium is, and Pearl Harbor is right there, right behind the stadium when you're taking this drive. And they said it looked like a war zone when you were driving in on game day, because my last two games the stadium was sold out, and it's the only time in the history of college football that Hawaii rushed the field. And it was a magical couple of years there, and I got lifetime friends because of it. And being in a place like Hawaii that people will call paradise, it's just awesome to have my roots here and to get a chance to know the people and respect the lifestyle here. The people are amazing here. I'm so grateful because of that I came back for my senior year, and I'm so grateful for the time I got to share with my teammates and the people of Hawaii.
Yeah. Colt, you got to play with three guys that were, in my opinion, three of the top 100 all-time college football receivers: Ryan Grice Mullen, Devon Bess, and Jason Rivers. Their stats in 2007: Ryan Grice Mullen had 1,372 receiving yards, Devon Bess had 1,266 yards, and Jason Rivers had 1,174 yards. There, in all of college football history, there are only 5 trios that have had over 1,000 yards receiving between them, and Hawaii had one of those. How's that make you feel?
Awesome. No, that's awesome. And those three guys you named, man, they were, I know Devon went on and had a pretty good NFL career. But I thought all three of them could have been in the NFL and had great careers. I know Ryan Grice Mullins got up to Canada and had a good year up there and did some good things, but he's a sheriff now. Jason Rivers is still here in Hawaii, but those three, I was, as much as, the accolades can come to the quarterback, I was surrounded by some of the best talent, both on the O-line. My junior year, I had 2 amazing running backs. I think both of them averaged over either 7 or 8 yards a carry that year. The receivers I had all 3 years, but especially my senior year, because we had time under our belt, me, Jason, and Ryan. And even CJ Hawthorne was a DB who stepped in his senior year as a receiver and became a great receiver for us. But the bond we had, the relationships we had, the love we had for each other, it'll transcend a lifetime. And, I think that's why we were so successful, is we loved each other as much as we loved playing with each other.
Yeah, your guys' chemistry together, honestly, some of the best I've ever seen between a quarterback and his receivers. It was really a thing of beauty watching you guys play. Talk about, I rewatched the whole Hawaii-Washington game it was all on the line. You guys were undefeated at that point at home, and the $4 million prize to go to the BCS Bowl was all on the line. Talk to me about that Washington game and how crazy that was.
Yeah, that was crazy because we thought we were going to come in and roll, and we got hit in the mouth real early, and Washington did a great job taking advantage of it. I think we had a couple fumbles that were really, broke the spirit of us early on, and basically Washington was able to capitalize, and they had some good talent. Maybe they weren't the best. They didn't have the best team record, but this is a Pac-10 at the time school, and they had tons of talent. Jake Locker was the quarterback. They had some good receivers. They obviously had some talent, and we had those two fumbles, I believe, in the first half that allowed them to really capitalize. And I think I had a fumble, and one of our running backs had a fumble. I think so. But anyways, they were able to capitalize, and or maybe it was two. Anyway, either way, they got up on us early, and I think it was 28-7 in the second quarter.
You're right.
And then we were able to go down and score just before half to make it 28-14. And then in the second half, we came out and we let it loose, and we ended up getting the touchdowns we needed to win the game. And to make that comeback just showed a lot about us that year, because we had some tough games that year where we had to really rise up and answer the call. And in my junior year, we lost 3 games that were all very, very close. We lost to Alabama at Alabama. That came down to the last play of the game. We lost to Boise State, which came down to the last minutes of the game. And we lost to Oregon State, which was another shootout. I think it was 35-32 or something like that. And we ended up, really learning a lot from that experience. And I think going into my senior year, I know we had Louisiana Tech early. We had San Jose State, where we, the chances of us losing were there, but we rose up and we got the job done. And then to catapult us to that position we were in against Washington, for us to crawl back just shows, the unity of the team we had. We all kind of believed we could do it. And even when the chips were down, we rallied and came back and won it. And the jubilation across Hawaii was a lot of great football cities out there, a lot of great colleges, and it felt unmatched here. It was an epic experience, and I was just grateful to be a part of it, and to have the team and kind of the success to represent Hawaii. And there's just nothing better than that, and it was an amazing experience.
Walk me through that pass, the pass that put you guys up to Ryan Grice-Mullen. It was funny rewatching that tape. I noticed how Ryan Grice-Mullen went up to the referee and kind of grabbed him. I was curious what he said to the referee.
I think he was trying to let the ref know he wasn't going to dance or I think he was trying to be like, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to over celebrate. Don't throw a flag on us. It was such a great comeback. I think when we were getting down in the goal line, we were noticing they were playing a lot of man. And so it actually is funny because it was that same play I talked about early on in this broadcast with San Jose State. It was the go route. And when they're in man like that, you can get a rub on that middle receiver and the inside receiver where he's coming off the back of that middle receiver. And it creates a hard time for the inside guy guarding that inside receiver to get to the flat and guard it. And I remember me and June were over there. I think even June said this after the game, but he's like, Colt, Coach, I said, like, Coach, they're in man, let's just run go. And it was the go route. And everything, we ran, I think, a return motion where the guy came down and then came back. So the D back was following them. So we knew it was man coverage. And then they ran that combination. And Ryan, I just knew I had to get it out quick and right on target to Ryan. And then, I remember that he ran up to the ref and the stadium just went off, 50,000.
Oh yeah. The place exploded.
And I think Ryan was just trying to let him know that he wasn't going to, over celebrate or get crazy or anything like that. And the crazy part about the game is now there's only like 20 or 30 seconds left and we kick it off. And then Jake Locker throws a dime down the sideline and brings it to our goal line within like 10 seconds. And luckily though, the last play of the game, the ball got deflected in the air and one of our DBs was able to intercept it and the game was over. And then it was just pandemonium across that field and across that state. And I've heard some great stories about it over the years. And so, yeah, it was a great moment because we set out to go 12-0. And that was our mission from day one. And we were challenged along the way. And to accomplish that, it was quite an awesome experience.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, myself and college football fans across the country, it really made my heart fill with so much joy to watch you guys go undefeated. Because like you said, you guys were so battle tested throughout the season. I mean, there were so many incredibly close games for you guys. I think you had like 4 or 5 games that were like a touchdown or less or something like that. You had a couple of games go to OT. I mean, it was, man, sweating bullets throughout your guys' season, but I was just so excited to see you guys finish it off.
Yeah, thank you. And, I think it was those early moments where we had a couple of those overtime games and we really had to rise up that it kept us humble through the process of our senior year. And we knew that we couldn't give up fighting until the last play of the game when the clock hit 0. So I think it really got us ready for what transpired toward the end of the season. But it was a great run with a great number of teammates and great coaches, and it was a testament to Hawaii and what a special place this is.
Talk to me a little bit about Jerry Glanville, Colt. I'll be honest, man. All the defensive coordinators I've gotten to watch over the years, like Jerry Glanville's defenses fascinated me because there was something that guy would teach to where the defenders would just hit like their hair was on fire. I was like, holy shit. How is this guy coaching these dudes to hit this hard? Like, blew me away, dude. I got nothing but respect for Jerry Glanville because I loved watching his defenses play at Hawaii.
No doubt. Jerry Glanville was an awesome guy and a great coach. And we as players, we loved the fact that he was on our team. We enjoyed him immensely. And, every day at practice here in Hawaii, you practice at 7 in the morning, bright and early in the morning. When I was at Colorado, you don't go to practice till after school, at 3 o'clock, in the afternoon or whatever. But with us here, because of the time change, because we have to get used to going to the mainland and waking up for early games and waking up really early, we obviously practice at 7 a.m. every morning, which means you got to be at the facility by 5:30, if not earlier, And so, one, it keeps guys out of the riffraff that can get you in trouble. It keeps guys out of the late night places and stuff like that because you got practice every morning. But when we would wake up and go to practice, he brought so much energy and so much excitement to practice. And I know the guys loved playing for him. And I would go in. He was one of those guys I'd love to go into his office and just sit down and listen to him tell me about, he's a real man. And he would scout grizzlies in the Northwest. And he would tell me stories all about that. And he had these awesome stories. And I just loved sitting down, listening to him. And, I really enjoyed him being on the team. And he's iconic, and God, the NFL mic'd up. His days were just some of the best lines ever in pro football. And he would tell me about one time he was tracking this grizzly and the grizzly confronted him and he was in a black hoodie. And he said he stood up and he put his hands up and he was making all this noise. And he said that there were some either hikers or maybe hunters that watched the ordeal from afar and that they thought he was an elk, and the grizzly ended up turning away and walking away. But that was Jerry Glanville. He'd go toe to toe with the grizzly and win. So he was an amazing man.
That's hilarious. I'm not surprised, man. Watching that guy's defenses, that's the one thing that really jumped out at me whenever watching Jerry Glanville's defense is just how hard the players hit. Like, I was just blown away. I was like, God, these guys, hits. I loved it. Yeah. Absolutely loved it.
For sure. And, his style embraced Hawaiian style because Hawaii is a physical place. And when you watch the younger kids grow up and stuff, being tough is a part of it. And, they'll call it scrapping out here. It's fighting. They fight a lot. They scrap a lot when they're young. And they really took it to his style of football. And they definitely played with that energy come game day.
Talk a little bit about, watching all the film of you guys past couple days brought back some real memories. One of my favorite players to watch for you guys. I mean, I know the receivers and then you were obviously great, but Kealoha Polaris, man, I loved watching that guy play. And he never set any records, but god damn, that guy was good.
No, Kealoha was a special guy. It still is. He was very, very awesome. And he was young. I think he may have only been like a redshirt freshman my senior year. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're right, Colt. I think you're right.
So he was young, but God, we knew he was special. And, he had more of a controlled role my senior year, but you could tell he was going to be a great player. And I got a chance. UH football was inducted to the Hall of Fame, not this fall, but last fall, so 2 falls ago. And we all got together at a UH game, and we were introduced at halftime, and it was awesome seeing Kealoha. He's such a great guy. He had the dreads. He was just a really great spirit. He represented Hawaii and the people of Hawaii really well, and he was beloved on the team. And as much as he was a great player, him as a person was just as much great. And he was a great player. I really enjoyed playing with him.
Yeah, he was a really exciting all-purpose back and a perfect fit for the run and shoot offense. I can definitely see why June Jones recruited him. And there was another really shifty back you guys had. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was really good. Speedy guy.
Nate Alawa?
I think it was.
He was my junior year.
David something.
Well, there was
Nimble?
David Farmer, but he was a fullback.
Maybe.
I can't think of a David.
I'm blanking on the name. There was another really small, speedy guy. Besides,
so I think you're maybe talking about Daniel Libre.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Libre. Yeah, he only played. He was a walk-on. He only played. I only played with him my senior year, but he stepped in and had some great moments my senior year. And yeah, he had wheels. That boy could move. And he was also one of those great local, humble, just like Kealoha. They both were very humble. They represented Hawaii, and they had a lot of pride, and they were terrific guys to play with.
Yeah, you mentioned playing with Matt Leinart in high school. Quite honestly, I look at that roster in high school, and I'm like, God, that has to be the sickest quarterback room I've ever heard of on any high school football team ever. To have two Heisman Trophy finalists on the same roster at the same time in high school.
Yeah, it's crazy looking at it.
I got a funny story for you. I want you to explain this to me. I heard that you were running the second team, Leinart was running the first team, and you took the second team to a win over Leinart. And I feel like your dad said something special after that happened.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Basically, it was our spring game going into our senior year. And the way it worked was no pads, but like it's still very physical. We wear those little shell things, and maybe we wore the little helmets, or maybe we didn't. I can't remember. The fake stuff, not the real stuff. It's kind of like a physical 2-hand touch type game. I had the first team defense and the second team offense, and then Matt had the second team defense and the first team offense. And we ended up, I ended up having a great game, and we ended up upsetting the first team. Basically, I think after the game or something, my dad said something to the fact like, "Hey man, you keep this up and you're going to go somewhere." And, it was a great moment for me because, I wasn't I wasn't really this highly recruited kid out of high school. I only played my senior year because my sophomore and junior year, I played JV my sophomore year and then was, on the varsity team as kind of a backup my junior year. My sophomore year. And then my junior year, I was his backup. He never got hurt or nothing, and so, and he obviously had this amazing high school career, and he had scholarships coming in from every big school. And but me and him ended up becoming really good friends. You know, you spend that much time with someone in the QB room or whatever the case was. We became really good friends, and we stayed friends all up until this day. Yeah, about 3 years ago, I went and visited him up at the college football studio that he does his show out of, and I got to hang out with a bunch of, you know, former NFL guys, and I just sat around and I watched what those guys do on game day. There's like 6 TVs up, and it's catered, and they sit around in their suits and they talk football, and then they go out and do their segments. And I got to hang out with them all that day. But Matt was a great guy. And then I had a bunch of surgeries, and I used to go to Arizona. There's this amazing trainer down there, Brett Fisher, and he runs this thing called Fisher Sports. And it's a place where you go to get in shape right before mini camp and stuff like that. Or if you have injuries, he's a great physical therapist as well. And so that was in, I believe, Scottsdale, Arizona, right by wherever ASU is. And Matt would let me live in his mansion. He wouldn't even be there. He would just, you know, give me the keys and let me stay in his mansion there in Arizona. And it was awesome. It had this giant lake in front of it, and it was this beautiful home. And he had one of those golf things where you can like golf on where you can hit the ball right into the screen, you know, and it'll track your shot. And but yeah, I used to love being able to stay there, and he always took really good care of me. He's always a good friend. And yeah, those early years, our junior and my sophomore, junior, and senior year, we were close. We were good friends. And one of the funniest things was my mom. He was probably a senior, I was a junior, and we were downstairs. I had like a den in the house I lived in, and we were practicing our autographs on a piece of paper. And it's like, you know, 50 of my autographs and 50 of Matt Leinart's autographs. And my mom kept it till this day. She still has it. And, you know, who knew that, you know, it was going to be such a cool thing to keep after all these years. But after me and Matt had a chance to go to the Heisman, Matt won it. She pulled that paper out years later, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I can remember the day we were sitting down there. What about this? Do you like it when I do this? Or do you like it when I do this? You know, and it was such an innocent moment, but it turned out to be quite a foretelling moment.
Did you get to talk to Matt about Reggie Bush? To this day, that play that Reggie Bush made against Fresno State, one of the sickest plays I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, no, Reggie Bush was one of the most funnest to watch running backs of the college era, and he still ended up having a great NFL career. And I had a chance my second year in the NFL, I tore my hip and I was IR'd. And the Redskins were going away, so they left on like Thursday. And so I basically had a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I had a 4-day weekend. And so I flew down to Florida to watch Devon play. And I was, you know, in the tunnel, and Reggie came walking by, and I said, "What up, Reggie?" And he came up and he said, "What up" to me. But he was always really nice guy, really nice to me. I always thought about, you know, that was the game that Reggie won the Heisman against Fresno. I always found it weird when I was in the Heisman, when I got invited to it my senior year. They were like, "Yeah, but his schedule is so weak. His schedule's so weak." And it wasn't the strongest schedule. But Reggie Bush won the Heisman with playing a team in the WAC. I mean, you know, so I mean, it was just kind of, you know, it was what it was. But Reggie was a great guy, and I got a chance to have some great experiences. Like when I was in junior college, my first year at Hawaii, we were 5-7. We didn't make a bowl game. I went home for Christmas, and Matt and SC were getting ready to play Texas in the Rose Bowl, and I went up to practice, and I was watching from the sideline, and Pete Carroll called me out, and he's like, "Here, you just stand right by me today." And that whole practice, he just had me walk around with him, and he would teach me about, you know, what concepts of practice they were in. You know, this is 2 minutes left to go in the game. We're in the red zone, you know, and it was just a great day for me to kind of, you know, it's like for a day I got to be coached by Pete Carroll and got to realize, you know, what a great coach he was. He was also a coach that was beloved by his team. And I think he's a coach that's really enjoyed in the NFL as well. But I was really blessed to have Matt as a friend and to spend a lot of years. And I was also blessed for us to have the success we had. And looking back on it now, it's pretty awesome to think about.
Yeah. Who was your favorite football player, favorite football team growing up, Colt?
Well, I love the Rams and the Raiders because my dad had season tickets, and he would tell me, Colt, back in those days, season tickets aren't what they are now. Now it's like such an investment to get season tickets. But we would go to the Ram and Raider games, and I remember I loved Henry Ellard for the Rams. He was the receiver for them, and I was a big fan of his. I remember watching Jerome Bettis. I can vividly remember watching him play for the Rams that rookie year. And obviously the Cowboys were in their run for Super Bowls during my younger years. And I was on the Cowboy bandwagon for a couple of years. But, I think when I was 12 or 13, around that time frame, the Ram and the Raiders left L.A. all within like a year of each other. And I kind of felt like, well, I don't have a team anymore, and I remember after that moment when the Rams, because I love going to the Ram games and I love the Rams. I remember after that moment, I started just to become a fan of players. And I used to love, rooting for the team that my favorite player was on.
That's awesome. I'm curious, did you guys ever play NCAA football when you guys were at Hawaii, the video game?
Oh, man, that was nonstop.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. NCAA football is one of the all-time great games. Not only that, you could have created yourself and put the 10 advisor on there too.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the game they had me with a visor, but it was a clear one. But I remember I went to the College Football Awards my junior year. It was down at Disney World. Basically, they had EA Sports down there, and they had, there's like the meet and greet nights, and like we got to sit down, and I had this great year my junior year. I had the 58 touchdowns, and we had that great run, and so I sat down and played video game college football against the guy that made it, and I think I ended up winning. And I was like, dude, why'd you guys make me so crappy? Obviously I'm here. I wasn't that, and so I gave them a bunch of grief for how good they made me. And the fun part about it was my senior year, I was rated pretty high in that game. And so I was like, man, you guys better make me sick next year. They did make me pretty good.
That's funny, man. Talk to me a little bit about the DUIs, Colt. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about your legal stories and just to clear up some of those.
I don't know if I wanted to talk about it, but I will. No, I just, ever since the accident, and I've had to deal with a lot of different things in my life, and traumatic brain injuries, quite a, hard to get through. And I found myself in, losing your career, losing the ability to do what you love, and then not understanding why you feel the way you do. I reached out for substances a lot, and over these last 9.5, almost 10 years now. And basically, I found myself twice just making bad decisions, and when I was years ago, when I got my first one, it was kind of right after I learned I wasn't going to be able to play football anymore. And I look back at the night, the situation, it was so easy to avoid. And I didn't think I was that messed up, but I was going 10 miles over the speed limit, and the cop was real adamant. And so anyways, I got in trouble, and then I dealt with that and went through that process. And then I think this past year, I found myself in a pretty dark place. Like I said, I've been having to learn how to walk again. I've been really beat up. I've been suffering a lot of depression, just issues in life, not being happy, and just being frustrated with being such an athlete at one point, and now fighting to try and be an athlete again. And I found myself making a pretty bad decision one night, and I'm paying the price for it.
What are you doing now, Colt, job-wise?
So I'm in the process. This whole COVID thing has been kind of crazy, especially here in Hawaii. So much has, been turned upside down. But, I coached Pop Warner last year, or not this fall, but last fall. And we won the Big Island Championship, and that was a great experience. I was dealing with a lot of medical issues. I got a blood clot on my spine and spent 9 months in the hospital. And that's when I had to learn how to walk again and everything. And then this past fall, I had to go back to Oahu. We had to do some work on the house that I own there. And I was living out in the country. Basically, I helped coach for Kahuku, which is a high school that I won a state championship with years ago, coaching for them. I helped out for a couple of weeks at Kahuku. And then basically, though, once this all dies down, my ambition is I want to work at a golf course. I think I grew up in the golf game. I think that would be great for my recovery because I still got some time until I get the nerves all died in my feet. And so it's a slow process for those to grow back. And so I've been basically doing what I can to do the physical rehab and the medicines that can help regenerate my nerves. And it's been a slow process, but it's been, one where I'm getting better. And so I had an ambition to work at a golf course. I can hit balls every day, and then I'm really good socially. And, it's a game that I enjoy and love. And so I think I'd be good at it. I think I'd enjoy going to work. I plan on approaching the new coach at UH and maybe taking some classes and also helping out coaching at UH just as a volunteer type thing. And then I wanted to coach again, either high school or Pop Warner out there on Oahu. So I wanted to kind of mix in all those things. I love giving back. I love, my life is for people. If it was about me, my own security, I wouldn't want it, and that's the way it is. And so I basically just want to go back, get a job once things start opening back up at a golf course, maybe take some college classes and help coach both UH and also either Pop Warner or high school.
That's awesome, man. Glad to hear that. Yeah, the coronavirus stuff, it's been one of the most bizarre things ever. I mean, it's really unexplainable, like it's turned the whole world upside down,
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the next couple of months things will eke their way back to normalcy, because I'll definitely be bummed if we can't watch football in the fall.
Do you have weekly doctor appointments?
Yeah, I had one early today. But yeah, I'm constantly involved with the doctors. I have blood clots that kind of were a result of both the accidents and not doing a good job taking medicines, and my lifestyle at the time allowed some blood clots to become pretty problematic in my life. And then I also have traumatic brain injury, so I do see an array of doctors.
Sounds good, Colt. Well, you know what? We really appreciate you taking the time, Colt. I tell you, I haven't gotten to tell you this, but my favorite interview I've ever had was Chad Pennington. Let me tell you something. You just topped it. So,
oh no,
right
on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough, man. It's been an honor, and from college football fans all across the country and the world, we are so grateful that you are okay. You're happy, healthy. Keep your head up, Colt. You're a good man, my man.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Flow Theory Podcast. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and TuneIn.